Modern society has a cruel way of making the elderly invisible. We walk right past them. We ignore them. But what if that exact invisibility is the perfect camouflage for a cold-blooded killing machine? In the criminal underworld, you can steal money or cross a mob boss. But whatever you do, never mess with a frail 65-year-old woman on the street and try to act tough. Because this harmless grandma is actually a Tier 1 exterminator who has spent the last 40 years making people disappear. Her targets are exactly the kind of rude, arrogant men like this guy. Annoyed that he has to stand, he takes out his anger by yelling at and insulting a young woman sitting down. Even though she explains she's pregnant and needs the seat, he doesn't care. He even gets physically aggressive with her. Not wanting any trouble, the surrounding passengers just sit in silence, watching him humiliate her. Hornclaw sees the whole thing unfold, but instead of stepping in and causing a scene, she simply pulls out her hairpin and quietly waits. When the train stops, she uses the chaotic, pushing crowd as her cover, taking the opportunity to jab him with the poisoned hairpin. Because the pin is so sharp and tiny, he barely even notices it. But the moment he steps off the train, he drops dead on the spot. And that is how an assassin with 40 years of experience eliminates a target. However, no one is born a killing machine. To understand how a woman can reach the age of 65 with ice in her veins, we have to rewind 40 years, back to 1975. It all started when a 16-year-old runaway girl collapsed in the middle of a freezing snowstorm. Unable to withstand the bone-chilling cold, she passed out on the street. Fortunately, a kind-hearted couple found her and took her in to work at their diner. For the first time in her life, she had a home and a peaceful routine. While living there, she slowly developed feelings for Ryu. Beneath his cold exterior, he deeply cared for her. But it's a pity that Ryu was already married, leaving her no choice but to bury those feelings deep in her heart. That peace didn't last long. One day, a rogue soldier showed up at the diner and immediately set his sights on the young girl. That night, he snuck into the kitchen looking for her. Without a word, he attacked her with malicious intent. Panicking, she grabbed a cutting board, struck him, and tried to escape. Furious that she fought back, he relentlessly overpowered her. Pushed to the absolute edge, she snatched a metal rod and put an end to the threat once and for all. When Ryu returned home, she was terrified, begging him not to throw her out. But surprisingly, Ryu wasn't shocked by the scene. Instead, he calmly reassured her, "Don't worry, you just crushed a bug, that's all." Noticing her broken fingernail from the struggle, he gave her a new name, Nails. Ryu then revealed his true identity. He wasn't just a diner owner, he was a top-tier operative running an underground disease control agency that cleaned up the city's worst elements. He trained her to become a lethal specialist. To be a perfect exterminator, she had to erase her humanity and strike without hesitation, taught that they aren't human, they are a disease, and we are the cure. But in the underworld, blood debts are paid in blood. Unable to get to Ryu, his enemies targeted his family instead. Returning home, they found that Ryu's wife and child had paid the ultimate price. Devastated, Ryu realized he had crossed some heavy hitters. Not wanting Nails to be implicated, after laying his family to rest, Ryu gave her a hairpin, telling her to use it to protect the pest control company. Then, he marched straight into the gang's hideout alone to settle the score. Even though Nails rushed after him, by the time she arrived, Ryu was already gone. With nothing left to lose, she pulled out the hairpin Ryu had given her and single-handedly took down the entire syndicate. After that intense showdown, she decided to take over the company Ryu had built. And just like that, the fragile girl who once collapsed in the snow became a cold, calculating ghost. Emotionless, fearless, and never missing a mark. 40 years pass. The fragile girl is now a woman in her 60s, operating under a new name, Hornclaw. The disease control agency has changed too. What started as Ryu's small underground operation has evolved into a massive syndicate, run by a younger, far more ruthless and pragmatic generation. Hornclaw is now a living legend in the underworld, the agency's oldest and most lethal asset. But decades of erasing vermin have left her completely hollow. Lately, she's begun to develop compassion for the innocent and for small, helpless creatures, an absolute taboo for a professional killer. Ignoring the rules, she brings an injured stray dog to a veterinary clinic. Since the dog is old and won't be taken in by a shelter, it faces certain euthanasia. Unable to walk away, Hornclaw decides to take the dog home and care for it herself. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the city, a young man is secretly brought to a black market clinic to sell his kidney. The boss, seeing how young he is, asks if he wants to sell a cornea too, offering 30 million won. But the young man, whose name is Tu, finds the price insulting. Spending the rest of his life half-blind isn't worth 30 million. The price of glasses goes up like gold, so why is the price of an eye the same as it was 10 years ago? He mocks. Desperate, the boss tells him to name his price. Tu just says, 10. 10 billion? No, 10 seconds. That's all Tu needs to wipe out the boss's entire crew. Despite the boss's desperate pleas, the negotiation fails. After single-handedly clearing out the black market ring, Tu drives off. On his way back, he notices someone tailing him. He quickly turns down a side street, losing his pursuer. The man tracking him gives up and turns back, only to be suddenly T-boned by a forklift. The driver? Tu himself. Handling the situation with terrifying unpredictability, Tu steps out. The man in the crushed Mini Cooper barely survives and begs him to stop. He reveals himself as Sun Shiljiang, the head of the disease control agency. Instead of a fight, Sun Shiljiang calmly lists the young killer's bloody track record, taking down Boss Han in Banpo, Chairman Yoon in Dongtan, and today, Boss Gu. Praising his elite combat skills, Shiljiang points out that wasting such talent on street brawls is a tragedy. A secret negotiation begins, promising much more lucrative hits. At that moment, the agency's matriarch, Hornclaw, returns to headquarters and witnesses a woman crying in absolute despair. The woman is begging, willing to trade everything to have the agency kill Han Sung-do, a societal scum who ruined her poor son's life. Looking into the file, Hornclaw learns the tragic truth. The son's girlfriend was tricked by addicts and died of a drug overdose. When the son went looking for answers, the gang brutally beat him into a vegetative state. Despite the heartbreaking circumstances, Director Sun coldly refused the contract, deeming the case too complicated. Meanwhile, Sun tries to pitch the agency's vision to Tu. Shiljiang tells him, instead of senseless killing, use that talent to exterminate the scum of society like we do, and save the unfortunate. But the arrogant killer just scoffs, mocking this ideal as a fake shrine of salvation. When Tu tries to leave, Shiljiang grabs his arm. Instantly, Tu draws his weapon as a threat, but before he can strike, he receives a freezing warning from the matriarch. Hornclaw's deadly aura forces him to drop his insolent attitude before things go too far. She then coldly reminds the agency members to be more careful when selecting recruits. Intrigued by this encounter, Tu accepts the offer, driven by a dark ambition to become a legend himself. Shortly after, the matriarch visits a private clinic for a checkup, only to be diagnosed with a severe neurodegenerative disease. Abnormal protein buildup in her spinal fluid threatens to cause severe hand tremors and a total loss of motor control. Ignoring the doctor's warnings, she ruthlessly threatens him to keep her condition an absolute secret from the agency. Shortly after, the syndicate takes on a new mission targeting a female criminal in her 40s. She preys on lonely elderly people, posing as a housekeeper to rob them of their wealth before silencing them permanently to cover her tracks. However, the joy doesn't last long before she notices something unusual. The dashcam's power cord has been unplugged. Before she can even understand what is happening, she is subdued by a man. She desperately begs and agrees to any demand, but the veteran assassin decides to show no mercy. He forces the victim to drive to a railroad crossing, knocks her unconscious inside the car, and stages it as a train accident. Suddenly, a schoolgirl appears and calls out to him. However, just as he runs toward her, the train rushes by, ending the woman's life. Having witnessed the incident, the terrified girl runs away to notify the police. According to the schoolgirl's testimony, the killer stopped at the crossing, and despite knowing the train was coming, abandoned the unconscious victim and left. Strangely, security cameras even caught the killer chasing the girl to a local police station before fleeing. Therefore, they confirmed this is a murder, staged as a suicide, immediately identifying the suspect and launching an investigation. For the assassin syndicate disguised as a pest control company, the principle of secrecy is absolute. Even though veteran Zhang has dedicated his whole life to them, a single mistake can bring down the entire organization. An execution order for the former comrade is immediately issued to silence him. To preserve the old assassin's dignity, the matriarch volunteers to handle the purge herself. With an assassin's intuition, Hornclaw quickly finds Zhang at a memorial hall, bitterly holding a bouquet of flowers in front of his daughter Yunho's urn. Bitterly, Zhang confesses that at that moment, He saw a hallucination of his daughter who passed away 10 years ago, which was exactly why he chased the girl all the way to the police station. He then recounts the tragedy from a decade ago when a cruel pastor took his daughter's life, a resentment that pushed him down an irreversible, blood-soaked path of murder. However, he knows full well that Hornclaw's appearance here is no coincidence. She has come to purge him. Instantly, he smashes his bouquet into Hornclaw's face and makes a run for it. The matriarch immediately gives chase. To prevent Jang from noticing, she turns off her headlights to approach easily. Looking through the rearview mirror and seeing no sign of the matriarch pursuing, Jang thinks he has lost her. But before he can breathe a sigh of relief, she suddenly appears, delivering a devastating ram from behind. The horrific impact sends Jang's car rolling multiple times into an empty lot. To ensure there are no mistakes, she approaches to check if Jang is dead or alive. Suddenly, she is attacked by him, causing her back to slam into a rock. Before she can react, Jang lunges forward, choking the matriarch and begging her to let him go. However, she strikes his face with a rock, asserting that even if she dies, she must complete the mission. But an old woman's strength is no match for Jang, and she is easily overpowered. Hanging by a thread, Tu-U suddenly appears and stabs Jang from behind. He openly looks down on Hornclaw, mocking that if she had done her job well, Director Sun wouldn't have sent him here. Nevertheless, she still wants to handle this matter herself. Despite being an assassin, it breaks her heart to see Jang like this. But now, Jang has accepted his fate and takes his own life. Afterward, Hornclaw puts Jang's body in the trunk, preparing to bring him back to the syndicate. But on the way, she feels dizzy due to the severe wound on her back. With no other choice, she pulls over to administer first aid. However, due to massive blood loss, Hornclaw hallucinates, seeing her old mentor reminding her not to show mercy. Losing control, the car crashes into roadside trash cans. Upon waking up, killer instincts kick in. Hornclaw immediately subdues the young man, demanding to know what he is planning to do. The young doctor calmly explains. Hearing the sudden brakes and seeing the car parked on the side of the road, he knew there was an accident and came to check, and only to find her. But because she adamantly refused to go to the hospital and passed out, he had to cut her bloody clothes himself to stitch up an 8-centimeter gash on her back, along with a stab wound that nearly damaged her organs. Hearing this, she finally lets him bandage her wounds. Watching this scene reminds Hornclaw of how her mentor also used to care for her so attentively, so she no longer worries about her identity being exposed. Later, she meets Director Sun, confronting him for not trusting her and sending someone to assist. He makes the excuse that the matriarch is a valuable asset of the Xinxiang Pest Control Company, so he couldn't let her face any danger. The matriarch firmly states that despite being old, she can still do the job well, while criticizing the syndicate for recently picking up random people off the street and assigning tasks recklessly. Hornclaw reminds him of the syndicate's principle, to exterminate toxic bugs that destroy society. She criticizes Sun for refusing the case of the addicts who killed a person, arguing that this is exactly the work the syndicate should be doing. In response, Sun justifies that those addicts are actually a nationwide mafia syndicate. Touching them means everyone in the organization will die. He also announces that the assassin Tu-U has passed his background check with a clean record and officially becomes their colleague. As Hornclaw leaves, she runs into Tu-U. He casually reveals that he's been watching her. Keeping the doctor alive and letting him treat her means leaving a witness. If the syndicate finds out about this moment of weakness, her end will be as tragic as veteran Jang's. However, she coldly orders him to get out of her sight if he wants to live. That night, Tu breaks into the syndicate's data archive. He discovers a file about an abandoned child whose parents were murdered, who was then sent to an orphanage before being transferred to a mental hospital. The next day, after careful consideration, Hornclaw decides to look into the man who saved her life. She visits his mother-in-law's fruit stall. There she meets little Hani. Seeing the girl's drawing, Hornclaw guesses her mother was a wonderful person. The grandmother tearfully recounts that her daughter spent 5 years in the hospital after a botched surgery before passing away. The overwhelming grief caused Hani's father, Kang Bong-hee, to suffer from severe insomnia. For years, he has worked night shifts everywhere and poured all his energy into a hopeless protest, a way to stay faithful to his late wife. Just as Hornclaw leaves, Bong-hee arrives. Learning she was just there, he quickly chases after her. At this moment, Hornclaw contemplates killing him to keep her assassin identity hidden. However, when they meet, he says he believes he saved a good person because she rescued and took in the dog. Hearing this, she decides to spare his life. Meanwhile, Director Sun and Tu-Yu discuss Hornclaw. They mockingly call her an old lion who has lost all her claws, just lying there, blocking the way, and they begin plotting to eliminate her. Elsewhere, while walking the dog, Hornclaw bumps into Ha-Ni and Bong-hee again. Watching his daughter play innocently with the dog, Bong-hee quietly shares his deep-seated resentment with Hornclaw. He bitterly recalls the hypocritical, half-hearted apology from the hospital director after turning his healthy wife into a vegetative state, ultimately leading to her death. The despair and helplessness once pushed Bong-hee to the verge of giving up on everything, but deep down, what he truly craves is revenge. Catching that hidden glimpse of hatred, Hornclaw coldly asks, "Do you want to kill them?" However, Bong-hee dodges the question by inviting Hornclaw to lunch with him and his daughter. Because of this, Hornclaw and Bong-hee's family grow even closer. Innocent Ha-Ni invites Hornclaw to her dance performance. Although she really wants to go, Hornclaw declines, knowing she doesn't belong in such a bright world. At that moment, Ha-Ni accidentally takes a photo of Hornclaw, leaving behind a digital trace of someone who lives in the shadows. On the other side, Tu-Yu starts targeting Hornclaw's new weakness, Bong-hee's family. He shows up at Bong-hee's vet clinic, dropping cryptic threats, and then brazenly appears at the fruit stall to approach little Ha-Ni. Realizing the danger, Hornclaw immediately steps in to protect her saviors. She makes a deal with Tu-Yu. Hornclaw will completely vanish from the underworld, provided the syndicate doesn't touch a single hair on Bong-hee or his daughter. But the young killer scoffs at her late-found compassion and remorse, declaring that a blood-soaked killer like her has no right to enjoy peace. The next day, a massive explosion rocks the hospital where Bong-hee has been demanding justice for his wife. The target is the cruel hospital director who caused her wrongful death. She collapses in agony as the entire hospital spirals into chaos, screaming for an ambulance. Amidst the panic, Bong-hee only catches a fleeting glimpse of a mysterious figure dressed in black. Soon after, the syndicate receives a new assassination contract. The mysterious client specifically requests a female assassin around the target's age, making Hornclaw the obvious choice. However, sensing something is off, Hornclaw consults a female colleague. The colleague reveals the target is none other than Dr. Kang Bong-hee. The client, claiming to be the hospital director's son, accused Bong-hee of killing his mother and offered a massive sum for revenge. Hornclaw firmly defends Bong-hee's innocence. The colleague also found it suspicious that a wealthy director's son was wearing a fake watch, yet director's son had rushed them to just take the money. Proactively doing a background check, the colleague tracked the middleman down. Hornclaw immediately confronts this fake client, demanding his true motive. Terrified, the man admits he was just paid to follow orders and dials the real mastermind, Tu-Yu. Over the phone, Tu-Yu arrogantly declares he will shatter the illusion of equality and threatens Bong-hee's life the moment he gets off work. Realizing her savior is in imminent danger, Hornclaw races to the clinic, only to see Bong-hee stepping into an elevator with the young killer. Desperate, she sprints up the stairs. Miraculously, no blood is shed. As she tries to leave, Tu-Yu intercepts her, and they sit down at a nearby cafe. He smugly states that Hornclaw is destined to lose this game because she has a weakness to protect, Bong-hee's family, while he has absolutely nothing to lose. Suddenly, a customer walks in carrying a bouquet of flowers. Tu-Yu starts sneezing uncontrollably and is forced to rush outside. This severe pollen allergy triggers a buried memory. Hornclaw rushes home to dig through her old archives, finally uncovering Tu-Yu's true identity and his ultimate motive. Years ago, she was assigned to assassinate a man, posing as a maid to get close. She waited 10 days for the perfect opportunity and executed him from behind. But just as the man fell, his young son returned home from school. Out of a rare moment of pity, she spared the child's life. That boy grew up to become Tu-Yu. Armed with this revelation, she storms into Director Sun's office. She declares she is going to execute a hit in true Shinseong fashion, a direct assault on the headquarters of Han Sung-do, the mafia boss responsible for the addict case they previously ignored. Sun desperately tries to stop her, warning that kicking this hornet's nest is pure suicide. One old woman cannot take on an entire underworld syndicate alone. Unfazed, Hornclaw declares this will be her final mission. Dead or alive, she will vanish forever after this battle, leaving the agency entirely to Sun. She challenges him. If he's truly worried about her, he should send Tu-Yu as backup. Fueled by a resolve to fight to the death, the legendary assassin marches straight into the enemy's lair. At first, boss Han Sung-do is dismissive. hurling insults and laughing at the agency for sending a washed-up old woman to her grave. They immediately clash, though Han initially dominates with his youth and raw strength. Hornclaw's elite experience quickly turns the tide, beating him into submission before he can even react. Just as she is about to deliver the killing blow, Han's entire gang swarms the room. Han coldly orders his men to prepare the old woman's funeral. Yet, surrounded by death, Hornclaw's expression remains ice-cold, ready to remind them exactly why her name was once the ultimate terror of the Underworld. Facing an overwhelming army, she avoids a head-on clash, using the chaotic environment to strike from the shadows. Pushed to her physical limits, she calls Sun to ask if his prized fighter is on the way. Sun flatly refuses. He coldly states he won't waste his trump card on a hopeless battle, sneering that Hornclaw is simply paying the price for her own soft-heartedness, for breaking the rules to protect those who don't belong in their world. Pushed to the brink, Hornclaw unleashes a terrifying final surge of strength, tearing through the mob and reducing the Mafia's empire to absolute rubble. Despite their sheer numbers and aggression, the mobsters are utterly terrified by Hornclaw's relentless tenacity and frightening combat skills, but eventually they manage to ambush her, bringing her down on the spot. Immediately, they throw Hornclaw into a pit and call Director Sun to inform him, considering their collaboration a success. Just as they are about to eliminate her right in that pit, thinking she will perish there, fortunately, the female colleague had accidentally overheard Director Sun's recent conversation and immediately called 2U for backup. Upon hearing the news, he quickly tracked the GPS coordinates, charged straight into their hideout alone, and took down every single one of them. However, by this time, they had already filled the pit with dirt and sand. Realizing the critical situation, a panicked 2U frantically dug through the dirt to find Hornclaw. Just when he thought it was completely too late, he luckily felt her hand and pulled her up from the ground. Afterward, he desperately speeds away to get Hornclaw home. To thank him for saving her life, Hornclaw invites 2U to a meal. Here, 2U wants to know why Hornclaw chose to be an assassin. Choking back tears, she reveals her tragic past. Simply because she was too hungry as a child, she mistakenly stole a ginseng root thinking it was a radish. Her entire family was torn apart by the massive debt and eventually evicted. For nearly half her life, she had to live as a servant from one house to another, constantly beaten and forced to flee, cursed by people as a worthless burden. It wasn't until she was 16 that she luckily met someone willing to forgive her and treat her like family, giving her food, shelter, and a job, while also teaching Hornclaw to become the person who silently saves people today. At this moment, 2U confesses that he also had someone he viewed as family, but only for a short time, and that person was Hornclaw. He wants to know if Hornclaw still remembers, but how could Hornclaw forget the day 25 years ago when she took his father's life right in front of 2U? Now she can say her apology, yet she admits that her defeat was just bait, because she knew for sure 2U would come looking for her. By the time 2U realizes the truth, the anesthetic has already made him pass out. When 2U can no longer resist, Hornclaw quickly takes him to a cliff, promising to see him in hell. Without hesitation, she sends the car plunging straight down the abyss. Only when the car is swallowed by the water does Hornclaw breathe a sigh of relief. Afterward, she returns to the Syndicate, announcing she has disposed of the person Director Sun always valued. Hornclaw demanded Director Sun to settle his own fate for his failures. To clear the past, she told her colleague to erase every trace of their headquarters and start a new life. Just as it seemed Hornclaw could finally enjoy a peaceful retirement, a real nightmare began. On the day of Hani's performance, the girl thought she saw someone familiar and ran toward them. After the show, Bong Hee and the grandmother were terrified as Hani was nowhere to be found. Suddenly, Dr. Kang received a message that turned his world upside down. When Hornclaw arrived, the venue was empty. Seeing her suspicious behavior, Dr. Kang mistook her for the one holding his daughter, but her reflexes instantly stopped him. He then immediately showed her the chilling message he had just received. The message revealed a horrifying truth. 2U was still alive. To make Hornclaw pay, the young killer broke every rule by taking Hani away, forcing Hornclaw to come alone to Happiness Park for a twisted party he had prepared. Hornclaw assured the panicked Bong Hee that she was the real target and warned him not to involve the authorities to ensure the girl's safety. Hornclaw returns home to gear up for the impending battle. Before heading out, she goes to feed her dog, but tragically, the loyal companion has peacefully passed away. Carrying this heavy loss, just as the first light of dawn breaks, Hornclaw swiftly makes her way to the agreed location. At the park, Tu set a massive ambush. Anticipating this, Hornclaw scaled the building from behind to infiltrate. Here, she engages in a fierce solo shootout with the mercenaries. Hornclaw moves like a phantom, taking down her enemies swiftly before they even realize she is there. However, upon reaching the source of Hani's cries, she realizes it's a trap. To save the little girl, she has to clear out the entire squad present. Spotting a sturdy rope nearby, Hornclaw devises a bold and incredibly risky plan. She immediately ties the limbs of a fallen mercenary to one end of the rope, using his heavy weight to anchor it securely against a pillar. Grabbing the other end, she takes a daring leap down, unleashing a hail of bullets and neutralizing every single target midair. Honestly, the way she ruthlessly improvises with her surroundings gives off major John Wick vibes. She turns a seemingly impossible situation into a masterclass of tactical combat, proving that true legends don't just rely on guns, they use everything around them to their advantage. After clearing out the mercenary squad, Hornclaw marches straight into the second building to track down Tu. Facing Hornclaw, Tu threw Hani toward her, declaring that all debts would end today. Tu turns and mocks Captain Lee's men as utterly useless. Furious, Captain Lee realizes his entire squad was merely used as cannon fodder for Tu's cheap and twisted game. While the two were distracted arguing, Hornclaw seized the opportunity, grabbing a weapon and landing a precise hit on Captain Lee's arm. Tu reacted instantly, kicking the weapon out of her hand. Furious from the sudden strike, Lee relentlessly attacked Hornclaw, but in a flash, she countered by grabbing his leg and driving a blade deep into it with a crippling strike, bringing him to his knees instantly. Desperate, Lee reached for his firearm to take her down, but the chamber clicked empty. Realizing this pointless clash isn't worth his life, Captain Lee tries to limp away. Tu tosses him the car keys, letting him leave without a second thought. Tu then turns his attention back to Hani, using the girl as leverage to force Hornclaw to drop every weapon she has. Furious, she demands, "Why do you constantly drag Dr. Kang's family into our mess? So to you, that vet is someone worth protecting, but I'm just trash that needs to be disposed of?" When Hornclaw confirms his bitter assumption, an enraged Tu strikes her to the ground. He then grabs Hani, intending to seal the little girl's fate. Meanwhile, Captain Lee finally manages to drag himself to the car. But the moment he presses the key fob, the vehicle goes up in a massive blast. It turns out it wasn't a car key at all, but a detonator. Left with no other option, Hornclaw decides on a one-on-one showdown to end everything right here, which is exactly what Tu wanted. With everything on the line, the two clash in a fierce final battle. Exhausted and running out of strength, Hornclaw's attacks grow noticeably weaker, allowing Tu to land several devastating strikes on her. Taking advantage of the chaos, little Hani crawls away to find a phone. Spotting one, she immediately tries to call the police for help. However, even in the heat of battle, Tu never takes his eyes off the girl. After kicking Hornclaw to the ground, he strides over to Hani and crushes the phone under his foot. Suddenly, Hornclaw appears right behind him, driving her blade into his chest. But with her strength fading, the strike lacks power, and Tu easily knocks her back. Realizing she isn't fighting to defeat him, but merely stalling to buy Hani time to escape, Tu is driven to tears of sheer frustration. He screams, but instead of looking at him, Hornclaw simply closes her eyes. Tu lunges forward for a final decisive strike. However, Hornclaw blocks the blade with her bare hand, simultaneously driving a critical counterattack deep into him, bringing him down completely. In his final moments, Tu brings up the past, recounting how she abandoned him. "Why did you treat me like that?" The story flashes back to when Tu was just an elementary school boy. His parents had divorced, leaving him to live with a cold, neglectful father. All the young boy truly wanted was a loving mother to care for him. That wish seemingly came true when Hornclaw appeared in his home, posing as a housekeeper. Her constant warmth and care made Tu incredibly happy, and he began to see her as his own mother. But one day, upon discovering that Hornclaw was actually an assassin who had just taken out his father, Tu didn't panic or cry. His first instinct was to find her. According to the code of her trade, Tu should have been silenced immediately for witnessing the truth. Instead, she spared his life, telling him to pretend he saw nothing and stay quiet. However, because Hornclaw was the only person to ever show him the true warmth of a mother, the young boy begged to leave with her, fully aware that she was an assassin. Hornclaw promised she would return for him once he was a little older, then decisively leapt down. leaving the young boy utterly alone. The young boy was later falsely accused of his father's demise, locked away in a psychiatric ward, and eventually sent to an orphanage. Through all those grueling years, he clung tightly to the belief that Hornclaw would come back for him. Tragically, 25 years later, when they finally crossed paths again, Hornclaw had completely forgotten that promise. And it was that very forgotten promise that fueled Tuu's relentless, heartbreaking thirst for revenge. Hornclaw is left stunned as the long-forgotten promise finally comes rushing back. Choking back her emotions, she asks why he didn't just tell her sooner. But Tuu was terrified that if he told her and she didn't remember, his entire existence would be reduced to a meaningless blank page. Their showdown at Happy Park wasn't a coincidence. It was his desperate attempt to trigger that very memory. The time a little boy begged her to take him to that exact park, only for her to simply smile and walk away. Remembering everything, a bitter sorrow washes over Hornclaw for the tragic fate of the boy she once cared for. With nothing left to do, she softly wishes him good night, promising that they will meet again in the afterlife. After the storm finally passes, little Hani safely reunites with her father. As for Tuu, Hornclaw honors his memory at a quiet temple. Since people in their line of work leave no photographs behind, she places a drawing he made right before their final clash at the park at the altar, treating it as his very last legacy. Hornclaw herself has changed. She is no longer the cold, emotionless machine she once was. Embracing a newfound sense of peace, she confidently walks into a salon to treat herself to a beautiful manicure. However, her work is far from over. The entire system of the pest control agency has been fully reset, rebooting with a new roster of highly elite assassins. As for Hornclaw, her next scheduled target is a hypocritical pastor. The fate she has prepared for him is unimaginably ruthless. But unfortunately, this is where our movie comes to an end. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to support me.